Welcome to the Sisters of the Shire podcast. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Abby.
How are you today,
How are
Abby?
you today?
Oh, I asked first.
Oh, fine. I'm cold. It snowed all yesterday.
Baby, it's cold outside.
It didn't stick though, which my kids were very bummed about. But
Oh no.
it's like that. Just like it's finally winter. But
Winter is coming.
I know. Oh my gosh, I forgot to tell you. You just said winter is coming, and I forgot to tell you. I was going to text you this, but I feel like our audience needs to hear this also. I was at the urgent care with my baby. We were waiting in the pharmacy area to get a prescription. And there was this woman in there, and she was, I'm guessing, 70s, 80s. Like an older woman, kind of tiny and frail with like a white perm, you know, that kind of just like little old lady. And her phone goes off like really loudly because I'm assuming that
she's deaf. Yeah.
Yes. No. Every old person has their phone on so loud. Anyway, it was the Game of Thrones theme song. Like, so loud. Yeah, I was like, it was like this like sweet little old lady, and I was like, okay, all right. It's like she's in it for
so
Jason
which one
Momoa.
is she like drooling over?
Either in it for Jason Momoa, or she's in it for
Jon Snow. I can't remember his real name. Yeah, I could see that.
I was like, okay, you do.
Get it, girl.
Get it, Gladys.
Get it, girl.
You've got it.
Did I ever tell you about the time my brother went to see Twilight for some odd reason when it was like first in the theaters? He was the only guy in the audience, of course, and he was in front of a bunch of middle-aged older women, and the scene where Jacob takes off his shirt, which we're like, one of the ladies was like, boy, I need a cigarette.
Oh gosh.
I love that story so much.
And your brother was like, help me.
I know. I still have to figure out why he did that, but anyways.
I just think that old lady is just in it purely for the like bloody gore of it all. That's what she's like super into, like the war and the war scene.
She's like, the Red Wedding's my favorite scene.
Yeah. The dragons. Anyway, I had to tell you that because I was like, I was just
love that. I'm
like,
here for it. I want to be her friend. If you ever see her again, give her my email.
It was pretty great. We are doing something fun as a family today. The kids and I are really excited.
What are you doing?
We get to go chop down our Christmas tree.
We're so much fun.
Our annual Christmas tree hunt.
We had to do it the day before Thanksgiving because Nate was working 7/12s. Thank you, Shipyard. But I didn't take a single picture, and I'm so mad at myself. So you take all the pictures, girl.
I will. I'm excited because it's not raining or snowing outside, but also we usually get our tree the day after Thanksgiving, but we had
the plague.
Children that we went to the urgent care with, so we did not get to do that. So we've just been like,
could have been like an episode of like the Oregon Trail. Like, come on, children, you can do it.
Like,
Jimmy fell behind. Leave him.
Yeah, they're coughing, and I'm like, we can do this. It's for the Christmas spirit. Feel it. No, it just doesn't feel very Christmassy in our house yet because we don't have a Christmas tree up. We have other things up, but I was telling Colt, I'm like, I'm not really feeling it yet. We got to have this beautiful tree up in our house. Oh, yeah. So we are venturing after school to go on our annual hunt to find the Bowden family Christmas tree.
I love it.
Up in the forested mountains of Oregon, we will find one.
I wonder how Yavanna feels about that. Like, we chopping down the tree, yes, but we're decorating it. We're
making it look really pretty.
And we're like, I can't think of another word other than worshiping, honoring it. But we are cutting it down.
Yes, honoring. We are praising. We
Yeah.
are enjoying the presence of,
Yeah. So,
Anyway,
speaking of Yavanna, how much do you
okay.
remember of last week?
All I know is the only other Valar that you talked about was Olmo
Because he's
helping
the only
out.
one that cares.
Yeah, he was helping out a little bit,
Yeah?
which honestly, I feel like he could have done a lot more because he
Yeah.
has a lot of power of water with him because water is can do a lot of damage. But
Sure.
he's like, I'm just gonna make it a little misty. Maybe to help them like throw them off their trail or something. That's what they were trying to do.
It hid them, so they couldn't find them. That's
That
one
was the
part.
men, right? The
Yes. So that was the two brothers, Hurin and Huor, that are of the house of Hador on their father's side, but of the house of Halladin on their mother's side. They were
okay.
fighting with the Halladin, got separated from everyone. Olmo gave them the cloaking mist to get away from the orcs, and then they were still lost, and then they got picked up by some eagles and
And
dropped
just dropped
into
in the middle of
Gondolin.
Gondolin.
Yeah.
Literally airdropped
Turgon,
them in.
yes. Turgon does welcome them because he's had dreams and visions from Olmo that they need to be nice to the House of Hador because they're going to help them one day. And then Hurin takes a Reader's Digest course of how to be a leader from Turgon. And then the brothers want to go back to their people to help them fight Morgoth. And then Maeglin gives them some sass about getting to leave, and he's like all butthurt because his a-hole of a dad didn't get to leave. But then they end up leaving anyway because they're actually like not murderers and a-holes. And the eagles take them out and bring them to their dad's land. And Galdor, his dad, is like, "Where have you been?" And they're like, "We were totally in the woods the whole time." And he's like, "You look pretty well fed and pretty well dressed to be, in the woods the whole time."
They have
um,
shirts that's like, come to
I went to
Dorland.
Gondolin and all
I
I
went to
got was this
Gondolin and all I
shirt.
got was a shirt. And they're like, yeah, we
Yes.
were in the woods.
They kept everything a secret, but they weren't very good liars, and everyone kind of guesses what happened. And then Turgon is starting to feel guilty because he's not really doing his part. So he sends some of his men to build ships and try to sail to Valinor to get help from the Valar, but unfortunately none of them make it. Morgoth still doesn't know where Finrod, Felagund, and Turgon are, so he pulls his armies back, replenishes everyone, sends in more spies, and then with his united forces hits Fingolfin's former territory that Galdor, Hurin, and Huor's dad are defending, and Galdor dies, and Hurin becomes king.
At like 16 or something
Yeah, it
crazy.
doesn't say how old necessarily, but he was pretty young. But because he had taken that Reader's Digest course of leadership skills, he actually does a pretty good job, fights the orcs back.
His brain isn't even developed yet.
I know. Fingon was fighting orcs as well nearby, wasn't doing so well. And then Círdan and his Falas elves show up and save them. And we also
Do you think it's
left.
like in the scene in The Hobbit, the Battle of the Five Armies, the last one, where the dwarves are like on the front lines and you're like, they're not gonna win, and then the elves jump over the backs of them,
Yes, I love that
and it's like,
part.
I know. So it's like they came and saved them. That's
Hmm.
in my mental image in my head
I
of
love
how
it.
that went
I love
down.
it. Uh-huh. And then Hurin and Huor both marry women of the house of Beor. And these women are part of the party that had to flee with Barahir, his wife Emeldir, the man-hearted. Hurin
That
marries a
just
woman
doesn't
named...
seem very flattering.
I know.
Like, does that mean you're stubborn? Does that mean
Yes.
like
Yes. I think that's pretty much
you,
what I mean. I wonder how early she got that name is what I'm curious
yeah,
about, too.
toddler,
Uh,
toddler?
Hurin marries a woman named Morwen, and Huor marries a woman named Rian. And the sons of these marriages, plus the son of Barahir and Emeldir, who we learned is Beren, are going to be our next generation of Bade men to enter our story.
Okay.
But a quick recap on Barahir, because that's who we're actually going to start with today. Remember, he was defending the area formerly Ingnor and Ingrod's territory that just got wiped out with the Battle of Sudden Flame.
Sad.
So sad. And they were actually holding their own pretty well. It says he wouldn't, they were fighting like foot by foot. They refused to retreat. He was fighting his hardest. And then Morgoth was like, oh, this is taking too long. And he's like, okay, all right, every man out there needs to be killed. You find them and you hunt them and you kill them. So Imeldir, the one we were just talking about, led the women and children of Beor to safety until there were only 12 men left to Barahir, who were known as the Outlaws. And this included Beren, his 2 nephews of the father of Gregolus. It's Bregolus, but we call him Greg in this episode.
It's not much better, I gotta say.
It's not much better, no. Gorlim the Unhappy and a bunch of other guys.
I really wanted it to be like a Western, like, or some sort of like Ocean's 11, where it's like each one gets introduced and it's like they freeze frame on them and it like their name like shoots across the screen.
Yes.
The Outlaws? Is that what you said?
Outlaws, yep.
Yeah. The Outlaws.
Ooh, it's like what's that movie? They just remade it. Oh, that's gonna bug me. Chris Pratt. Denzel.
Okay.
Oh, there's so many people in it. It's not The Hateful Eight, because that's like the mock of it. Darn it.
The 7?
Yes, it's 7. It's something 7. Oh, hold on. I'm sorry, I have to look this up or it's going to bother me.
Not Majestic, no.
It's not Majestic, it's...
Magnificent 7?
Yeah! Nicely done! Thank you for reading my brain. So it's the Magnificent 12. It is the Magnificent 7. Good job. Okay, anyways, sorry. I need to know that. And also, don't forget that Sauron got his Isle of Werewolves last episode, too.
Oh, amazing.
Yes, but also terrifying.
It's like the island of misfit toys, but it's the island of Sauron's scary wolfy boys.
Yes. Oh, and also we got to meet the swarthy men last week as well.
The swarthy men.
The swarthy men. Or Easterlings. That was the group of men that Morgoth called in as backup to try and get the Edain to turn against the elves. And so far, it's not really working. So far, Maedhros allies with them and befriends them with their 2 main chiefs, Bor and Ulfang. And but this is kind of what Morgoth wants, because these men secretly work for him. But, we'll just see what happens.
All right.
Oh, and we also met Beleg Strongbow, who is a very important leader. He helps out his buddies, the Halidin, fight off an army of orcs with axes.
With axes.
With axes. Okay.
Which I don't really see Elf using an axe.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially because he's known as Beleg Strongbow. Like he's known as an archer. I don't know. Anyway. Yeah. Okay. So, this chapter, I am so excited to tell you about this chapter because this is by far one of the most legendary, epic, moving chapters that I have ever read out of any Tolkien work. And you can just tell from the writing of this chapter that this particular tale was one of Tolkien's favorites. I don't know that for a fact, but it's just a feeling I get whenever I read this chapter. For example, This is literally the first part of the chapter. This is how he starts it. Quote, among the tales of sorrow and of ruin that come down to us from the darkness of those days, there are yet some in which, amid weeping, there is joy, and under the shadow of death, light that endures.
Aww.
Kind of reminds me of Romeo and Juliet. Yeah.
Yeah. There is hope out there.
Yeah. And this story is so legendary that it was put into a song by the elves called The Lay of Luthien. which means a lay, meaning a poem that is meant to be sung, otherwise a song. And this song poem is the second longest in all of Elvish lore. The first longest we'll learn about later, but this is the second longest one.
Okay.
And this chapter is pretty long, and a lot happens. So I don't know how many parts I'm going to do. This episode might be a little shorter, but I just didn't want to overwhelm you. So we're just going to take it as as it comes. Don't want to overwhelm you. We'll just take it slow because this is such a good chapter.
Okay.
So we're returning to the story of Bara here. Remember, he's the main man of the House of Beor, and he was defending Dorthonion and Aegnor and Ingrod's former lands before they died. And then Morgoth got fed up with them fighting so well, and to put it in basketball terms, it was like Morgoth didn't want to play a zone defense anymore. He wanted to switch to man-to-man. Basically,
he wants to get in on the action.
Instead of all-out battles, he wanted to hunt down the men individually. So Barhir and 12 of his men, known as the outlaws, were being hunted. Now, these men managed to find a hiding place in the forest by a lake. And this lake was called Tarn Iluin. Basically, a Tarn is a mountain lake, a lake that runs down, is at the bottom of a mountain. And Iluin basically means blue. So, Blue Mountain Lake.
All right.
And this lake is very old. It was said to have been hallowed by Melian being one of the Maiar, Thingol's wife, before she met Thingol in the days she walked Middle-earth. So, pretty old. And this lake was clear and blue by day, and by night, it was like a mirror for the stars.
Ooh.
So, Barahir and the outlaws managed to hide here, and for a while, Morgoth was unable to find them.
Okay.
Now,
hopefully, but probably not.
Probably not. Now, remember the outlaw Gorlim the Unhappy?
Yes. A real mood killer.
Yeah.
Like, read the room, dude. The vibes.
Gorlim the Debbie Downer. Gorlim the Gaunt. Gorlim the Goth.
You feel bad not to invite because you're like, ugh, I don't want to make it seem worse. And then he finally comes and you're like, ugh, dang it. The party's ruined. Way to bring it down, man.
Well, it doesn't specify whether he was just always unhappy or if the following events gave him the nickname. Because Gorlim had a wife named Eilinel, and he loved her so much. And the first chance he got after they went into hiding, because remember, they've been fighting and battling, and they had to leave their wives and children at home or with I already forgot her name. What is
the epic
name?
Lady,
the epic lady, the man-hearted. Yeah. So the first chance he gets, he goes back to his old home to check on her, but the house is empty, plundered, and abandoned. He has no idea if she had been killed, taken, or if she had fled.
Oh.
So,
well, I guess he does earn the title unhappy.
Right.
If that would happen.
Right. So, not knowing what else to do, he goes back to the lake with Barahir and the other outlaws. But he just couldn't stop thinking about his wife. What if she's alive somewhere? So, the uncertainty of not knowing just gnawed at him. And this caused him to go back to his house frequently, just to check and see if she had returned. And unfortunately, his frequent movements were seen by the enemy.
But he was just trying to make sure his wife was okay.
I know.
No.
So, one night, he's just going to his old house as usual just to check on things, when all of a sudden, he sees a light in the window.
Oh, and his hopes he probably got his hopes up and Probably just like barged in there.
He sneaks in a little closer, and he sees his wife, Eilina. Her face had grown weary with hunger and grief, and he could hear her crying that he, Gorlim, had forsaken her and forgotten about her.
I suspect trickery.
Yeah.
Trickery.
Gorlim is calling out to her, but at that same
Deception.
moment, he feels a heavy hand on his shoulder. The light disappears, and he hears the howling of wolves. The enemy had found him.
Oh.
Gorlim was tortured to find out where Barahir and the other men were hiding, but Gorlim would not talk. But then they start promising him that, if you only reveal the location, you'll be freed and you'll be reunited with your wife Eilina. And he's exhausted from being tortured, longing to be with his wife. Gorlim agrees, and he's taken to Sauron.
Oh no.
Sauron says, quote, I hear now that thou wouldst barter with me. What is thy price? Gorlim says, I'll tell you where Barahir and his men are if only you set me and my wife free. Then Sauron smiles and says, quote, that is a small price for so great a treachery. So shall it surely be. Say on.
Oh no.
Gorlim tells Sauron where Barahir and the outlaws are hiding. But Eilina, as you suspected, was never there at the house. It was a trick that Sauron used to trap him. And in fact,
one of the werewolves was just wearing like a wig.
Oh my gosh, it's like Little Red Riding Hood.
Yeah.
In fact, Eilina was already dead.
I knew it.
Yeah.
She was
Sauron tells Gorlim this, laughing at him. He's mocking him and says, quote, nonetheless, I will grant thy prayer, and thou shalt go to Eilina and be set free of my service. And then Sauron, quote, cruelly killed him.
Killed him?
Killed Gorlim. Gorlim is dead.
Now he's really unhappy.
Right?
And also really unalive.
Yeah. So Morgoth, now knowing the hideout of Barahir and his men, surround them with a pack of orcs in the dark hours before dawn. Take them by surprise.
Okay. Hold on. But at least they don't know they were sold out by that guy. Like, True. If he was still alive and they're like, Sauron's like, this is the guy that sold you out.
Yeah.
Well, like, I guess he gave him some mercy of killing him so they didn't know, and
yeah,
he doesn't have to feel guilty about that.
Yeah, Sauron could have, really rubbed that in their faces, but no, he just sneaks attacks them and kills them all.
What?
Except one.
Wait, he kills all of them?
Barahir and his men are all dead, except for one. Barahir's son, named Beren, happened to be out spying on the enemy when all this happened, so he's still alive. However, in his sleep, and this is the night before they were killed, he had a dream where he saw a bunch of carrion birds, which are basically vultures, sitting in the trees near the lake with blood dripping from their beaks. And then, from across the lake, a wraith of Gorlim is telling Beren of his treachery and death, and that he had to hurry and warn his father before it was too late. So Beren wakes up and races back to the lake, only to find the ground covered in carrion birds, and at his arrival, they flew into the trees, and his vision was made real. He didn't make it in time. Beren
You got this.
Beren buries his father Barahir. There's a lot of B's in that. Beren buries his father Barahir and swears an oath of vengeance. Of course. I mean, that's what you have to do in that time.
Father! I don't know. Have you ever seen the IT Crowd? Did you ever see that show?
No, but if you've ever seen, or if anyone listens to last podcast on the left, I will have my revenge! One of the guys always says.
In the IT Crowd, it's a son who bursts into his father's funeral and he runs to the casket and then he lays on it and then he looks up at the sky and goes, "Father!" It's hilarious.
Well, the first thing he does to enact this oath of vengeance is, of course, to track down the orcs that had killed his father and kinsmen. And he manages to find them pretty easily. And he sneaks up close to their fire and listens.
Dude, this is like a Western. I want
Right?
to see it as a Western now.
I can't decide if this particular part is more Western or less Western. You tell me.
Okay.
So, the orc captain just so happened to be bragging about his skills of the day. Especially how he had cut off the hand of Barahir that had a special ring on it. Remember the ring that Finrod Felagin had given him? And that he was going to give the hand to Sauron as proof that they had, killed everyone. Well, Beren, out of nowhere, jumps into the camp, kills the orc captain, takes the hand with the ring on it, and quickly escapes.
He just doesn't take the ring.
Nope, takes the whole hand. It does't say what he did with the hand, I will say. I'm assuming he buried it somewhere.
The Addams family. Just hang that.
Oh my gosh, that's the creepy hand from Zelda.
Yeah.
I freaking hate that thing. Okay, so he just completely, blitz attacked these orcs, and they were so amazed and dumbfounded, they didn't even pursue him. It said that they fired arrows, but they were just, way off because they were like, what?
Yeah.
Did you see that? Why is Master's head on the floor?
Yeah.
So
that's still Western to me. They're sitting around a campfire, eating beans. And then he came over and,
pow, pow, pow.
Yeah.
So 4 years pass. Beren has been wandering Dorthonion all by himself, a, quote, solitary outlaw. And in this time, he's getting to know the forest pretty well, and he even makes friends with the birds and the other animals.
Aww.
And they never betray him to the enemy and helped him whenever they could because he, quote, ate no flesh nor slew any living thing that was not in the service of Morgoth.
Oh.
So he becomes basically a vegetarian to honor his vengeance.
It's a noble quest.
Right?
Also, he's just, that is, the most awesome Western movie title, is the one you just said. The something outlaw. What did you just say?
Oh, the solitary outlaw. Yeah, I like it.
The solitary outlaw.
Mm-hmm. So he's all by himself, but still he does manage to cause some trouble for Morgoth.
He's got the birdies and the squirrels and the raccoons and he's Snow White and Cinderella.
So he makes so much trouble for Morgoth that Morgoth actually puts a price on his head, the same price that was on Fingon's head, and he was the king of the Noldor, so he was really pissing Morgoth off. But these deeds that Beren did, sadly it doesn't specify, did cause the orcs to actually be terrified of him and to run away from any word of his coming instead of following their master's orders and killing him.
Is it like in the scene, I forget which Shrek movie it is. But
yes, it's the third one, I think, with I was
Snow
thinking
White.
of that too.
It's singing. And then all the birds are zooming in and attacking people.
Yes, I could see that.
Go, my squirrel army.
So Morgoth, his orcs aren't helping him find Beren. He can't find Beren. So he has to send in his trusty lieutenant, Sauron. And Sauron brings in his werewolves.
Oh gosh. I know we're supposed to hate them, but epic.
Epic. And here we do get a tad bit more of an explanation of Tolkien's version of werewolves.
Okay.
Quote, fell beasts inhabited by dreadful spirits that he had imprisoned in their bodies. So maybe not werewolves in the sense that we think of them as like men who turn to wolves and then back to men, but maybe more like wolves that are possessed by a human being or a human spirit or like a demon or something. Because I don't
Oh,
see them morphing back. They seem
yeah.
more intelligent. So they have the
Mm-hmm.
intelligence of a man, but not the bodies. So that's maybe
Eh,
his version of a werewolf,
which is actually might be even more creepy, you know?
right?
Because they might be just going insane and they don't like it and they don't want to be there and
Yeah.
they're like unpredictable and crazy.
Mm-hmm. So with Sauron and his army of werewolves slash demon wolves, he invades Dorthonion, and Beren is forced to flee. But he's kind of limited on places to go. So I'm going to post a map of this particular area with this episode, but just to kind of visually explain. So he's in kind of a flat area that's surrounded by mountains, unfortunately. He doesn't
Okay.
want to go east because that is where his father and kinsmen were all killed. Plus, of course, there's mountains that way. He
Bummer.
can't go north because that's where Morgoth is.
Another
Plus,
bummer.
mountains. West is the mountain range that surrounds Gondolin, and plus that's also where the orcs were that he killed to get the hand. So there's probably orcs there still.
There's
So
no Eagle Uber anymore.
no Eagle Uber for Baron. Nope.
Darn.
So south technically has the smallest mountain range, so south it is. And he starts
Hmm.
making his way down there, and he can actually see Doriath in the far distance. Remember, Doriath is King Thingol's territory.
Okay.
And it was then, quote, put into his heart to go there. So off he went.
And he's gonna get
But
turned away because that guy's a jerk.
he is a jerk. But he has to get there first. And do you remember our two favorite vacation spots? Ered Gorgoroth and Nan Dungortheb, aka the Mountains of Terror and the Valley of Dreadful Death?
Oh my gosh.
That's
I
where
just
he
want a
gets to
vacation
travel
package.
through.
I just want a vacation package for those through Costco. I got a great deal.
Well, here's what is going to await him on his journey. Are you ready for this?
Happiness?
Yes.
Butterflies?
And a rainbow
Yeah.
and a unicorn.
Uh-huh.
Quote, terrible was his southward journey. Sheer were the precipices of Ered Gorgoroth, that being the Mountains of Terror. Beyond lay the wilderness of Dungortheb, the Valley of Dreadful Death, where the sorcery of Sauron and the power of Melian came together, and horror and madness walked. There,
Ooh.
spiders of the fell race of Ungoliant abode, spinning their unseen webs in which all living things were snared, and monsters wandered there that were born in the long dark before the sun, hunting silently with many eyes. No food for elves or men was there in that haunted land, but death only.
Oh gosh. So are they like off species of spiders, or are they just talking about spiders, or they're just something else that's even worse than spiders?
I think it's some kind of a beast, but that's just my interpretation, but it doesn't specify.
Cool, cool, cool.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, that is all that is really said about his journey because after he got through it, he never wanted to talk about it again.
I was gonna say.
Quote,
He's like,
lest the horror return to his mind.
oh gosh, he's got some trauma. He's
Oh, this boy
yeah.
has so much trauma.
Yeah.
Somehow, he survives this terrible journey and finds a way past the girdle of Melian that no one had ever taken before or since. They have no idea because, this route that he took, not many take. So they're like, how did you even get here? We didn't even know that that was a way there. He's like, you
Yeah.
don't want to go that way.
He like comes up to the first person. They're like, he grabs him by the collar and he's like, "Don't go back there. No." Or it's no, it's like in Emperor's New Groove, the little man that gets thrown off the building. He's like,
Beware the
the
path.
groove, the groove.
So he is able to get past the girdle, which is supposed to be impossible. But remember,
He did it.
Melian had a prophecy that someone would get past it because a, quote, great doom lay upon him?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so this is the one. Because remember, even Thingol was like, no man is going to come in my kingdom, especially not even those men that Finrod likes so much, that house of Beor. You know, I know they're best friends, but I still don't like any man. And then Melian's like, actually, someone, yeah, even from the house of Beor is going to come in.
And he's going to be the most epic, bad A person that to make it through there. He
Oh,
is
yeah.
worthy of coming in.
Yes. Yes. So, Beren has lived in the woods as an outlaw with his father and kinsmen, literally running for his life and hiding. Then,
Mm-hmm.
he lives in the woods by himself for 4 years, with no one but the birds and animals as friends, still running for his life and hiding. Then he goes through the Mountains of Terror and the Valley of Dreadful Death, most likely also running for his life and hiding, and somehow he makes it to Doriath.
He
And
does it.
when he arrives, he is very well kempt. He's got a suit on. He's got his hair all, freshly shaven. He just was looking fly. No,
He
he
cleans up
is.
good.
No, he is gray, disheveled, haggard. He's probably hasn't bathed in
He's got
years.
crazy eyes.
Oh, probably definitely has crazy eyes.
There's a
But
bird living in his hair, like Radagast.
one summer day, he's wandering in the woods when suddenly he sees her, Luthien, daughter of Melian and Thingol, and she is dancing on the grass under the moonlight.
Magical.
And the moment he sees her, quote, all memory of his pain departed from him, and he fell into an enchantment. For Luthien was the most beautiful of all the children of Iluvatar. Blue was her raiment as the unclouded heaven, but her eyes were gray as the starlit evening. Her mantle was sewn with golden flowers, but her hair was dark as the shadows of twilight. As the light upon the leaves of trees, as the voice of clear waters, as the stars above the mists of the world, such was her glory and her loveliness, and in her face was a shining light.
Aww. That,
So,
oh. I want somebody to say something like that about me.
right? So
Um,
that's actually where I'm going to end on the book, but I am going to add something here at the end. But you were to say
okay.
something.
I was gonna say, I've heard those two names together before.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to go into. Read my mind. I just gave you an air high five and you couldn't see it.
I did it.
Thank you. So, we're leaving the book right now, but like Abby just said, she's heard those names before because you might already know this, but Tolkien actually based this character Luthien after his wife Edith. And it literally
Aw.
says under Edith's name, the name Luthien, and under Tolkien's name, Beren, on their tombstones.
Aww.
So I'm going to
Aww.
tell you a little story here that literally had me crying last night. So brace yourselves.
Okay. It's not
But
the
I feel
best
like
time of the month for me to do this, but
oh,
okay.
sorry. But I feel like this is important to know as we're getting to know Luthien, just to kind of keep this in the back of your mind that Tolkien wrote this for this reason that I'm about to tell you.
Okay.
Okay, so Edith died in November of 1971. And in a letter that Tolkien wrote to his son Christopher, this is known as Letter 340 if you want to look it up, dated July of 1972. So she died in November. He's now writing to his son in July, so a few months later. He says, sorry, this is going to be a long quote, but I love this letter, and I just love this so much. Okay. Quote, and remember, this is Tolkien writing to his son. I have at last got busy about Mummy's, Edith's, grave. The inscription I should like is Edith Mary Tolkien, 1889 through 1971, Luthien. Brief and jejune, I'm assuming that's how you say it. I've never seen that word before. It's Jejune. I looked it up, and it basically means simple. So, brief and simple, except for Luthien, which says for me more than a multitude of words. For she was, and knew she was, my Luthien. Say what you feel without reservation about this edition. I began this under the stress of great emotion and regret, and in any case I am afflicted, from time to time, increasingly, with an overwhelming sense of bereavement. I need advice. Yet, I hope none of my children will feel that the use of this name is a sentimental fancy. It is, at any rate, not comparable to the quoting of pet names and obituaries. I'm sorry, I love that part. It's like, it's not like I'm being all cutesy like those people.
Yeah. Those simpletons.
I never called Edith Luthien, but she was the source of the story that in time became the chief pan of the Silmarillion. It was first conceived in a small woodland glade filled with hemlocks at Roos in Yorkshire, where I was for a brief time in command of an outpost of the Humber garrison in 1917, and she was able to live with me for a while. In those days, her hair was raven, her skin clear, and her eyes brighter than you have seen them, and she could sing and dance. But the story has gone crooked, and I am left, and I cannot plead before the inexorable or inevitable Mandos. I will say no more, but I should like ere long to have a long talk with you, for it seems probable I shall never write any ordered biography. It is against my nature, which expresses itself about things deepest felt in tales and myths. Someone close in heart to me should know something about things that records do not record. The dreadful sufferings of our childhoods, our childhoods being Edith's and his, from which we rescued one another, but could not wholly heal the wounds that later often proved disabling. The sufferings that we endured after our love began, all of which, over and above our personal weaknesses, might help to make pardonable or understandable the lapses and darknesses which at times marred our lives, and to explain how these never touched our depths nor dimmed our memories of our youthful love. Forever, especially when alone, we still met in the woodland glade and went hand in hand many times to escape the shadow of imminent death before our last parting.
Oh.
So I just felt like that was a very necessary piece to this chapter, especially before we really get into their story, just to, like I said, keep in mind of how he wrote this character as his wife, if that makes any sense. Like,
yes.
In honor of her, like he said, I never called her Luthien, and I don't know if she had the same qualities as Luthien does in the book, but he did write it for her, which I find so cute and so adorable.
Oh. And then I'm assuming he's the Beren?
Yes, so yeah,
character.
he's Beren. Yeah.
Which I'm like, okay, are you okay? Because, like, you have to,
well, I
you
mean,
went through a lot of stuff, too.
Yeah, but think of and that part that he just said, like, the dreadful sufferings of our childhood. So I'm not sure how many of you guys know this, but so Tolkien's dad died when he was, like, young, like 3 or 4 or something, and then his mom died when he was, like, 8 or 9. And then he was sent to live with a family friend, a Father Francis, I think, who basically raised him, and then he lived in a not an orphanage, but like a home
A
for.
boys' home.
But it had Edith. That's where he met Edith, was in this home.
Oh gosh, is she like an
So,
orphan
and
too?
I don't know exactly her story, but yeah, she was an orphan as well.
Oh,
So,
that makes the
I mean,
story even sadder.
I know. So it kind of.
But yet more beautiful. I don't know. It's a weird
Exactly. Yeah.
50-50
But that's why,
balancing it.
like, I love that part. Like, the dreadful sufferings of our childhoods from which we rescued one another. I
Oh.
loved that so much. So on that lovely note, I'm actually going to leave you for the day.
Okay.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Well.
So remember to follow us on Instagram at Sisters of the Shire Podcast. We are getting so close to 2,000 followers. So come on, add your friends. You guys are starting to respond on my questions, and I absolutely love it. Rate and review on your platforms. And we also got 2 new countries.
Let's hear it.
Turkey, just in time for
Ooh.
Thanksgiving. And the Czech Republic. So welcome to the sisters, you guys.
Cool.
And we are, let's see, getting very close to 2,000 plays on Anchor. Let's see how many we're at as of this very minute. We are at 1796.
Wow. We're so close. We can do this.
I know.
Guys. We can do this.
Tell all your friends. I love that you guys are sharing the stories and things on Instagram. Thanks for giving us the credit and not just stealing. I appreciate that.
Well, thanks for teaching me today and giving me that beautiful story.
You're welcome. It's about to get even more epic. So hold on to your butts for next week.
Well, it started off sad, but it came to a beautiful ending for this episode.
Yep.
And I have a word, an Elvish word.
Okay.
And I'm looking at it and it's different, that
tenses.
kind of thing. Yes, that's the word.
Yes.
So they have different tenses for this.
Okay.
But the word itself is meleth, which means love.
Aww.
And so, but there's different ways you can add it to different things, that it's not always meleth, but if you wanted to say I love you, you would say nai or ni, it's ni, nai meleth le.
Nai meleth le.
I'm assuming Arwen says it sometime in Lord of the Rings to
I was
Aragorn.
even thinking of
or Elrond
Keely.
To Arwen.
I was thinking Keely was saying it to Tariel, but I was trying to remember what. That's what I was going to ask you. Is that the Sindar or the Quenya?
This is Sindarin.
Okay, so she would have known that. So not that. I wonder.
So anyway, so it's.
I love it.
The word for love is
meleth.
No,
meleth.
So I thought it appropriate for this.
Melon.
Yeah, for this episode, full of love.
Oh, yeah. Full of love. All right, embrace yourselves. This might be a 3-parter. I mean, it's such.
You know what?
Yeah.
I love that. Let's just get in all that we can and not, rush through anything and cut out parts that are important. Let's just get into the nitty gritty.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, so literally this chapter is 30 pages long, and the part that I covered was 4 pages.
Let's do it. I mean, we're only on episode 24. We can do this.
Oh yeah. So I didn't want to overwhelm you. And there's
it was a beautiful
of
episode to a perfect mix of things, but also
I wanted to lay the foundation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for giving me that. Now I'm really I should go watch a Hallmark Christmas movie or something. Just keeping it in. Just keeping that love.
No, I'm just going to make a quick recommend to all the Tolkien fans out there. Read your children the letters from Father Christmas. It is the most adorable thing ever. And my daughter, she doesn't quite understand it yet. She's only 5. So it's basically letters that Tolkien wrote his children, but like as Father Christmas. And it's so adorable. It has like all these things happen. So like one year, his friend, the great polar bear, accidentally sets off the northern lights, like but like 4 years worth of northern lights, and it's basically like a huge firework that like, you know, causes all this trouble. And one year there's goblins that attack, and you know, it's so cute. And I love that he wrote it for his children. And he even like, it's kind of cool because it was written in like the 30s and 40s, so it's like, I knew you wanted that one toy. And Lizzie was like, what toy is that? I'm like, well, it's not like he's going to ask for an Xbox at this time. Like, these toys are a bit older.
Yeah.
But so cute.
Adorable.
So that's my Tolkien recommendation for all you
Cute.
Tolkien heads out there for the Christmas holidays.
Cute. Maybe we'll link it on our Instagram.
Yes.
So you guys can
Great idea,
see it
Abby.
there.
Yes. All right. Well, until next week, I've been Ashley.
And I'm Abby. Happy Christmas. I hope you guys have a great start of your season. Stay warm. We're thankful for you guys listening to us all the time. Stay not sick.
Stay healthy. Wash those hands.
Yeah. And thanks for hanging out with us today. And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.